Good afternoon, welcome to Rundlii Gaming. We're going to be doing a video on the game of Yinsh. This particular one is done by Rio Grande Games. The person that made it was Chris Berm. This is a very abstract game. In some ways it feels a little bit kind of like Othello, but it's obviously very different. Where you have these rings, and you're using these rings for where you can move from, and then you basically flip over tiles as you go. Your objective in the game itself is to get 5 of a type. 5 of one color in a row. Which may sound boring at first, but that's simply your objective, is get 5 in a row. When you get 5 in a row, you'll then take one of your rings off the table and put it onto your point track here. You need 3 points in order to win. So as far as victory condition, that's all you're trying to do throughout the game. However, it is a little more complex than that. What you're going to first do is each player is going to decide who's going to put rings down first. The ring first, and then whoever puts a ring first, the other player is going to put down a disc first. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of randomly throw these 5 rings down. I would not really call most of these positions that we're dropping in as particularly good. And if you've played a bit, I'm sure that there could be a lot better selections that would be chosen than these, but let's go ahead and drop that there, and we'll drop one over here. So, since white played first on it, we're going to have black drop their disc first. Now, how the disc placement works is that you will drop this disc as your color inside one of these rings. So let's say if I want to move this particular one here. You'll drop your disc in, and then at that point you can move on this line in any direction you want until you reach a spot that you want to move to. So let's say if I wanted to move here, I could do that. So that is how the movement works for just the basic single drop. However, there's going to be a little bit more to it. We're just going to start dropping a bunch of these down to kind of fill out a board a little bit for us. Alright, so with like this kind of setup, now there's a few things that you can do here. So let's say it's white's turn. Now, when they drop, like say this tile here, they can also jump over pieces. Now the rules as far as jumping over pieces is you can move across any number of spaces that you want. If you hop over pieces, you have to stop at the very next space. So let's say if I were to jump over these, I would have to stop in the very first space. Any piece you jump over will flip over to the opposite, including your own. In this case, it's going to turn both of those white if we did that particular move. But let's say we didn't do that move. Let's say we went with, like this one here. You'll drop your white one in there, and then you can move across any number of spaces, which will jump over those 2 there, and then we can jump over any number of groups as long as they're together, but we have to hit the first space after that. That would flip this one to black, that one to white. And this is going to be some of the main rules. The other thing is you cannot jump over other rings. So as an example, I cannot jump over this ring here. The rings do block each other, so it does kind of limit your movement. And sometimes you can use that as strategy in order to stop other people from being able to jump over specific pieces of yours. Like right now, with this black ring here and this white ring here, let's say if these two weren't in a way that's easy to get to, this ring cannot jump over these because this ring blocks it. So let's say if they were to drop another black circle, you know, he can get closer to his 5 circles if he keeps going. Now if the white ring came down this way, you know, let's say he dropped a white ring there, and he could later jump here to stop that 5 in a row. But basically a lot of it's going to be the strategy involved. The game itself is very simplistic, but there is quite a bit of deep strategy to it. I mean, it's something that does require a lot of thought to try to plan ahead of a lot of things, because just moving across, you know, if I were to try to go back this way, that is going to mess up a lot of your own stuff, because it does flip everything to the opposite. So you do have to kind of pay attention to which way you're going. Let's say if I didn't jump there. Alternatively, let's say if I went ahead and went this way, this ring over here could again drop a white one and then jump over all of this and flip over them. So a lot of times it is about the different positioning you could do. Or maybe they just want to jump there first and then they could have did that later. Sometimes the flips can actually turn it into a 5 in a row, depending on how it's set up as well. Because for example, this setup, white's doing really well here. But let's say if it was something like this, maybe they drop this black one, moved up here. When they go ahead and drop this black one here, and they jump across, they're going to flip all of that. And this would be their 5 in a row. Once you do get a 5 in a row, you'll actually take those off the board, and then you pick one of your rings on the table, and you remove from the game. It does play kind of like a catch-up mechanic at that point, because once you take a ring off the table, you only have 4 places that you can move from. So you probably definitely want to use one of the rings that may not be benefiting you as much, or maybe not in as an ideal of a position. But right now you're also playing 5 rings against 4, which means white is a little bit more mobile right now and can do quite a bit more damage overall on the table. But as soon as they score, it's going to do the same. And you're trying to get the 3 victory points by the end of the game. So some other rules that we're going to kind of go over, because that's the most of the gameplay was just what I explained to you right there. We're going to go over a few other minor rules here. Let's say we had a setup like this. As you can see, this black ring here is really close to getting 5 here and 5 here. If I were to drop a 5 ring here and then move, it doesn't really matter where to, but as you can see, I got a 5 in a row here and a 5 in a row here. However, in order to score a point, you have to take them off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a victory point. I would take a ring off. This is no longer a 5 in a row because I had to take off the 5. So that is something to consider, is that you can't score 2 points off of one of these usually. So, like in this case, I would score one of those rings. I would not score 2. So that is something to always consider as well. But that's pretty much the game of Yinsh. I mean, it may sound very simplistic, but as that, it's going to be more so as the game starts progressing. You're going to do a lot of positioning to try to block the other player, or you may do just a lot of stuff to make sure that they can't flip over all the progress you've made so far. Or they may just jump in there to take one of your 5 out, because let's say if you have the 4 in a row already, and this person's probably going to grab this one next, it may not be a bad idea to drop, like, say, a white one here and jump to the center. And that flips it over, because otherwise they would have went here when I dropped that there to flip it over. And that would have given them the 5. However, since you flipped this one over beforehand because you've seen that was coming, that is something that you were able to stop before it actually occurred. But yeah, that is the game of Yinsh. As I said, it generally plays in, I would say, about 30-40 minutes or so. Plays really simple. It kind of feels a lot like chess or Go, where there's a lot of easy rules involved with it, but it's just the complexity that comes after that, which is the difficult part of the game. But yep, that's the game of Yinsh. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and like it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it. And we should have another video next week, so definitely watch for it and you'll see that as well. Thank you for watching Rundlii Gaming, and you have a good day.